Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to do a deep dive into the 30-06 Springfield. For those that hand load for 30-06, you're going to want to see this one. I'm going to show you the powders that work the best. The powders that will get you accuracy, most importantly, and really good velocity. Let's get into it. As versatile as the 30-06 Springfield is, there's really two main bullet weights that most 30-06 owners use. You got the 165/168 grain, just a really all-around great weight for 30-06. And for your heavier, maybe you want to do elk, moose, bear, you got the 180 grains, which is also a great option. And I just want to look at all the powders that Nosler recommends. And what is sad is I see 3 powders. That's it. 3 that actually work well out of the 10 that Nosler shows. What about for 180 grain? Let's see. 3. Again, that's not great, guys. That's the problem with hand loading books. They're giving you tons of powder options, and a lot of them really are not going to work great for you. So let's look at what actually works well and what doesn't. Let's start with really popular powders that some 30-06 owners use that's, well, I might offend a few people when I say this powder is not a good powder for 30-06. So let's get started. First up, that's Reloader 22. Way too slow burning of a powder for 30-06. It's not a good powder. One of my favorites for just about every Magnum. But guys, this is a Magnum powder. This is H4831SC. Not good for 30-06. What about this one? Vihtavuori N160. Too slow. And of course, I don't even know why I'm bringing this one. N560, absolutely not. Way too slow burning. This one might surprise a few. Hodgdon H4350. Okay, this is a really good powder. Depending on the weight bullet, it will work great. All right, this might hurt some people's feelings, but one thing we're going to get clear of is ball powder. I know a lot of people get ball powder to work, but all extruded powder is just going to be more consistent. And I'm going to show you that you can get just as fast velocities as 6.5 Sta-Ball or Winchester 760 with much better accuracy. So I want to show you the criteria and how the powders met my criteria for being optimal good powder for 30-06 Springfield. So as I just said, I'm not going to be using ball powder. We want to do extruded powder. Here's what we're using. We're going to use a 24-inch barrel in 30-06. We're going to use a 165 grain. We will also show the 180 grain, but a 165 grain AccuBond. This is just an example, Vihtavuori N550, which I think is maybe the best powder for 30-06 for 165 and 180 grain. And I'll show you why in a sec. Okay, so this is where it really gets important. Okay, to meet my criteria, you have to have 100% burnt propellant, and not just at the highest pressure. Okay, so it's got to be 100% burnt propellant from like 60,000 to up to like 65 at least, bare minimum. Okay, load ratio. This is also really important for consistency. It's great if it's close to 100% or basically 95 to 100%. Not all of them are going to be that. So I kind of want to do a minimum of at least 90% fill ratio. And of course, we want some good velocity. So I'm going to show you some really fast loads. So let's just show this right away. This 165 AccuBond in a 24-inch barrel. This isn't even max, and you're well over 3,000 feet per second with Vihtavuori N550. So it is a very optimal powder for 30-06. Real quick, I just want to show you what a non-optimal powder would look like. So we're going to use Reloader 22. I know there's people out there that swear by Reloader 22 in a 30-06. in a 165 grain and 180 grain. Honestly, I'm not sure there's a bullet in the 30-06 it works great in. Just check this out. We're at 100% fill ratio and only 83% burnt propellant. Your case is completely full and you're going super slow, like almost 2,700 feet per second with 42,000 PSI. So that's what I'm talking about when it is not an ideal, it's too slow burning of a powder. So that's why we're not using any Magnum powders for 30-06. All right, let me show you the ideal powders for 30-06 and a 165 grain bullet. This one barely makes the cut, IMR 4064. And with a 24-inch barrel, you're seeing around a top velocity of 65,000 PSI of 2,905 feet per second and 92% case fill. So it barely makes it, but it's not bad. It's good, okay? Then we have IMR 4350. We get a little bit more velocity at 65,000 PSI, 2965. Here's the one problem with IMR 4350 and why I only call it a good powder for 30-06 is there's too much powder in it. So you're gonna have to be compressing your load with IMR 4350. Then we try H4895, okay? Really good velocity. This one barely makes it. Honestly, it could be iffy. I understand not all of them are gonna be really high case fill, but that's what we're going for. So I would say this barely makes it. Then we have Hodgdon Benchmark, not as fast velocity, but a decent amount of case fill. Another really good powder, okay? Now let's go to the best for 30-06 and a 165 grain, Varget. You're almost getting 3,000 feet per second and 93% case fill. By the way, all these powders have 100% burn rate, okay? You're never gonna have to worry about that with all of these powders. As I said, Vihtavuori N550 might be the best powder for 30-06. You're getting really high velocity, 3,030 feet per second, and 100% case fill. So really ideal. N540, it's pretty darn good, not too far behind N550. You're getting 2,965 feet per second and a pretty darn good case fill. All right, for you Alliant guys that might have some left, this might be the holy grail of powders for 30-06. It's a little bit faster than N550, as in it gets faster velocities and it has just as good case fill. I guess the question is, can you get it? So at 65,000 PSI, we're looking at 3,055 feet per second in a 165 grain. That is smoking fast. And 98% case fill, really, really good, okay? And then N150, Vihtavuori N150, another good one. This one is not gonna get you as fast velocities, but you're gonna get a really good case fill. Now I'm sure some of you noticed that I didn't include H4350 for a 165 grain in 30-06. Guys, this powder is awesome, but it's just a tad bit slow for a 165 grain bullet. Let me show you. So I've loaded up, 62,000 PSI with H4350, really good velocities, by the way. But that's where we get into a problem. Load ratio is great. Burnt propellant is not good. 98.6 at 62,000 PSI. Now, if I go up to 63, almost 64,000 PSI, still not 100% burnt propellant. Basically, we don't get that until we are past max pressure. Okay, so finally, over 65,000 PSI, we're at 100% burnt propellant. All right, we're to the 180 grain bullets for 30-06. Let's go with the good powder, and then we'll go with the best powder. Varget, really good, okay? You're gonna see that these velocities are pretty insane. Again, this is a 24-inch barrel, so you gotta keep that in mind. But you get 91% case fill, which is pretty good, and max velocity 2850 with Varget. N540, you're getting 2835 and 92% case fill. That's pretty darn good. Now let's get into the best. Starting with H4350, it really, really does well with the heavier bullets in 30-06. We're at 2,900 feet per second. That's insane for a 30-06 and 96% case fill with 100% burnt propellant. Woohoo! IMR 4350, you're not gonna be going as fast. Well, that's still really fast, 2845, but you still got a little too much case fill, but if you don't mind compressed load, it's a decent option. And of course, N550, as I said, might be the best powder for 30-06. 2,910 feet per second, 99% case fill. And let's not forget the special Alliant powder, Reloader 17, will get us the fastest velocity with a really good case fill. So 2930. Look, N150, it's probably not the best if you want to just hot rod your 30-06, but it's still a really good powder. You're just not going to go as fast, and you're going to have great case fill. All right, guys, so look, you certainly can use all these other types of powders, the ball powders, some of the more Magnum powders, and it's not like you can't get good accuracy, but what I'm trying to show is what you can, the best type of accuracy, consistency, low ES, and that's just what I'm hoping that can be helpful to you guys. So even in the Hornady book, only a handful of these are on my list. Varget IMR 4064, Reloader 17, and look at that, gets you the fastest velocity. H4350, nope. N160, this is funny. So this is definitely a Magnum powder. And you'd think with the Magnum powder, you're gonna get really fast velocities, but look at that, only 2,800 feet per second. It's because it's too slow burning. Same thing with Super Performance. It's not an ideal powder for a 165 grain. Anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. The 30-06 has a ton of potential, and using the right powders, it's a darn good cartridge.